Hi, homeopaths. Welcome to Dr. Nagendra's Homeopathy Clinic. Today we have seen a drastic shift in homeopathic prescriptions from 18th century constitutional prescription to diversified prescriptions. Different varieties have been noticed. How relevant they are in today's context? Let us move on and discuss that matter. Welcome.
See, friends, we have been trained in our institutions that homeopathy, the pivotal, the axiom, the center of homeopathy is similia similibus curenta. Very simple, very easy to understand, easily comprehensible law indeed. To bring this disorder into order, we have to create a natural disease picture collected from the patient, and we have to simply apply the artificial disease picture that is coming from the drug proving. Very simple. But actually, what happens? We have been trained that for a better prescription, we have to upgrade our knowledge. A classical homeopathic prescription depends upon three subjects: organon of medicine, repertory, and mater medica. We call it as triad of prescription. Goes very well. The problem starts to the students when it comes to therapeutics. We have surgery therapeutics, medicine therapeutics. Surgery, they'll ask you, name some remedies for fissure, name some remedies for nasal polyp. So the total picture changes over here. So far we have been taught that homeopathy is nothing but similia similibus curenta. But the problem starts here, the confusion starts here. And we have been taught in our subjects that the remedies has to be well proven, constitutionally proven, both mental, physical modalities. Until unless the remedy is well proven, you cannot bring them into homeopathic prescriptions. But contrary to that, we have some remedies like Acalify indica, Cyzicium jambolinum, Rauwolfia serpentina, Justitia adatoda, so on and so forth. These remedies are not a classical remedies. Okay, they are nothing but not a so well proven remedies in mater medica. Then we have why they are what they are doing in our mater medica. This is a great question arises. And another problem rises in our minds when we read literature, different types of literature. Like one side will say constitutional prescription, another side will have a literature like therapeutic index. The list you can go through on the screen. The best example is when you open your Boric Mater Medica, textbook of homeopathic Mater Medica, we have a therapeutic index where so many remedies are stated against disease diagnosis. Whereas in axiom, we'll say, treat the patient but not the disease. On the contrary, we'll ask the diagnosis and we ask you to quote the remedies directly for the nosological diagnosis, right? And once you complete your course and you're a fresher and enter into your practice, we have different thoughts and we start jumping from one seminar to another seminar. So we have different types of prescriptions, approaches, which confuses a new classical Heinemannian prescriptions, which we have thoroughly trained in our institutions. Constitutional prescription, another point of view. Miasmatic prescriptions, another confusing thought. In final year, when you go, miasms. Third year, we will read chronic diseases, the theory of chronic diseases by Master Heinemann. You master it. We faced a separate paper on that. And we say miasms are the cause of the diseases. Then there is a confusion for all the students. Then whether the selected remedy has to be constitutional or miasmatic or based on totality, or is it a psychoanalytical approach like Catherine Colta? Another group of people are emerging now, which is a special case nowadays. Medical protocols. Protocol methods are there. And another group of people are writing the seminars, conducting the seminars on pathological specifics. And there is another school, Kentian school, who want to stick on homeopathy and who want to keep homeopathy as a spiritual school alone. And we have keynote prescriptions, favorites. And finally, everyone's favorite, ultimately, the clinical tips. A lot of confusion, right? So most of my students, when they complete their course and they'll go out, they'll raise this question. Now today's topic, I would like to share my views. I'm not giving any dictum over here. I would like to share my views on all these prescriptions, diversified prescriptions, whether they are relevant today practice or not. Before going to any presentation, let us have a candid introspection. What are we doing? Are we doing right or wrong? See, when you see this picture and ask any first year student to final year student, you can easily say, name some remedies. Invariably, everyone will answer Maxol and Borax. Other remedies will add, of course. When you ask, name some remedies for the fracture, you will say Symphytum, Ruta, Calcariflor. Some remedies sprout up, right? Summer bathing, anti-crude. Breast-related disorders based on the problem. For weaning, good weaning, or any galactoria problems, you will have a group of remedies. Fine cut or surgical cut or knife cut, Staph aureus, specifically you are telling. Cons, directly you will say anti-crude, hypericum, ranunculus bulbosus, so on and so forth. Stye, we'll say Staph aureus, conium, thuja, list goes on. Nasal polyp or hypertrophy, lemna minor, sanguinaria nitricum, allium cepa, calcarecar. No case taking, no totality, no causation, just directly we are mentioning the names of the remedies. Now, what is this? So we'll try to cover up these points today. I try to collect some material on what is a protocol. I call it as a clinical tip. A protocol is a detailed plan of scientific or medical experiment. It's a plan, it's a procedure. It's a treatment procedure. To make it simple, it's a plan of treatment which you are designing once you see a case. It's a protocol. So here the protocol is designed based on the nosological name of the disease rather than the classical constitutional, what we have been trained in our colleges or medical schools. But everyone cannot create the protocol. Protocols requires a generation of practice or years of thorough practice before you release or you depend on any protocol. Example today very famous, I can quote Dr. Banerjee's protocol. Experience like Dr. Diwan Harishchand and Dr. P. Shankaran, yeah, the famous Dr. Rajan Shankaran's father. You people might have read his contributions. Now based on the available data in the market, the types of protocols, I have tried to classify them under two headings. Protocols can be divided as a simple protocol and complex protocol. What is a simple protocol? When any protocol contains only one remedy. Like I said, example, you want to prescribe one single remedy for mouth ulcer, you quote Maxol. Because your years of experience has taught you, you can prescribe only Maxol and that will give you results. And complex protocol is nothing but when more than 2 to 3 remedies are given to a clinical condition, we call it as a complex protocol. Now, examples of simple protocol, Baptisia tinctoria. For typhoid, you might have studied it in Borix Metromedica, Banerjee protocols. A list of a big book is contributed by Banerjee, Dr. Pareshnath Banerjee and his group. So better you can stick on to those things if you have any confusions. Belladonna 6C is most of the people is prescribed for fever. Variolum is a remedy which is given as a protocol by for viral infections. The reference I have given down. Conium in prostate problems and carcinosinum for mononucleosis. A list I have collected. Now, protocols, I can say in my own practice, I can share some protocols that I have been practicing for years. The list of remedies that you see on the screen, Antiptat, Ipecac, Cactus cacti, Aconitum napellus, Spongia tosta, Dulcamara, Arsenicum album, Sambucus nigra, Carbovec. a list of protocols I can give you for managing acute asthma for my 20 years or 22 years of my own practice. These are the remedies. I never go out of this list of remedies where acute asthmatic case has been handled very effectively. And along with that, of course, I'll follow with antisoric or constitutional remedy. Simple protocols have been given by pioneers. You can take a screenshot if you want. For lack of time, I may not read upon all those things. So no need of any case taking in these cases. Directly you can prescribe a protocol. And one of my favorite subject, I have presented so many papers nationally, internationally on simple protocols or specifics mentioned by Heinemann himself. Even Dr. Heinemann, in his own literature, he has shared so many simple protocols. Right from 1796, you can see in the first edition itself, Heinemann was so specifically recommending protocols. Even second, third, and fourth editions of Organon, most of them have been utilizing or using these remedies in your practice or in your cases in your OPD also. You can get so many clinical tips in Heinemann and literature also. For vertigo, I have been using tobacco very effectively. Even in epileptic cases, I have been using tobacco very beautifully and effectively. I'm just jumping down because this paper has been presented already. I just wanted to quote here. The sixth edition chronic diseases even is filled with so many protocols or specifics of some remedies for disease conditions quoted by Master himself. Even Materia Medica Pura contains simple protocols. So once you are convinced with simple protocols, we can go for complex protocols. Usage of multiple homeopathic remedies for disease condition. So now the controversy comes here. Law of similia, law of simplex. So you cannot use more than one remedy as per the rules, right? But there is a quote from Heinemann's chronic diseases, theory of chronic diseases itself, under psychotic miasm, introduction and treatment of psychotic miasm. Master Heinemann himself recommends Thuja and nitric acid can be given alternatively. Of course, one after another, one remedy at a time. But the complex protocol method has incorporated one or two remedies, multiple remedies. Another present scenario is the market is filled with homeopathic patent remedies and combination remedies prescribed by even leading homeopathic doctors. So these can be kept under complex protocols. What are the plus points and minus points of protocol methods here? The protocol methods have their pros and cons. The positive points are you can standardize the way of treating homeopathy. What is the standardization? After completing homeopathy, we'll come across and we'll say, if you give one case to two homeopathic doctors, two of them will come out with two different remedies. So standardization was not possible in homeopathy till the protocol method came. So protocol method has its own pros. We can standardize the way of treating diseases, and today's world requires proof. Clinical trials and research methods are possible only with protocol methods. It's very easy to convince the modern medicine that these are the protocols which are applicable on these are the diseases, and anyone can try it because science needs proved, reproved, clinically verified. Any person has to apply them and we have to convince them. And convincing them or convincing the science and convincing the modern research methodologies with a specific research work, we can convince them with protocol methods. And if you are a busy practitioner, it is easy on your brains. The classical homeopathic prescription, no doubt, it limits down your cases per day. And if you are a protocol method doctor, you can see more than 100 cases per day or even 1,000 cases per day. It depends upon you. helps in increasing the number of your OP patients, saves the time in handling common elements. Day-to-day practice or general practice becomes very easy to you. What are the problems here? What are the cons of protocol? It contradicts our basic principles. Yes, we do agree. We are not individualizing them. Constitutional approach is not applied. Miasmatic approach is not applied. We have to agree that. Patient-physician relationship is at stake. See, so far, most of the patients, they like homeopathic doctor because we do spend time with them. We give more importance to their emotional picture, which is lacking in protocol method. And protocol creates favorite and specific remedies, which is against Heinemannian approach. And when protocol method is in demand, it leads to patent, and patented drugs in a long term can increase the cost of the treatment economically. Next method, classical method, which you are very much aware of. In Heinemann's approach, totality of symptoms, mental, physical symptoms, modalities, particular, whatever you have been trained in organon classes, it has been followed beautifully. Of course, Heinemann approach is the ultimate one. Here, the constitutional picture method of study, and your Metromedica, classical Metromedica study and knowledge is going to help you. A simple example for the newcomers I am giving you. This was a case handled by me. It's an old case, but it was a classical case. It was a case of ovarian cyst. The size was 5.2 into 3.9 centimeters, a little larger ovarian cyst. The case was taken in June 10th, 2008. The case is very interesting. The lady by name Manjula, she was 23 years at the time, newly married. It was a love marriage. No doubt husband was very good. He was very supportive. The problem is the lady was hailing from a rich family, cultured family, and the boy was a poor fellow, but their family is going on very nicely. But the emotional side, the picture is, the girl used to get up in the middle of the night thinking of their parents, and she used to sob, she used to cry, and she used to suppress her feelings, which the boy noticed. And he told me either it could be Ignatia or Natramur, right? So Natramur was given because it's a prolonged grief. Of course, I have chosen 0/1. I have a water dose method in 10 spoons of water, and 1 spoon she consumes early morning by empty stomach. Daily she has to repeat it. And you can see that the result, within 2 months, the case has become very beautifully reduced. And even now, the entire family is my patient. For every homeopathic treatment, for every problem, they'll come for homeopathic treatment. So Heinemann's approach is the classical methods, very favorite. We have a pros and cons of this approach. It's a very reliable method. You don't have any controversies. And in my opinion, for every autoimmune disorder and for every constitutional problem, systemic problem, it is better to go for a Heinemannian clinical classical approach. But the problem is, it is applicable only when you have a qualitative totality. So some 10 days back, I have presented a paper, Tryst with Indolence. Some patients will come, they will not give you any symptomatic picture at all. They are very indolent. In such cases, you cannot go for a classical approach because paucity of symptoms are there. And it requires a lot of demand on the physician side. We have to take the case properly. We have to analyze the symptoms. We have to evaluate the symptoms. You have to repertorize. Then you have to consult Organon, Metromedica. We have to industriously and patiently, you have to judge the susceptibility of the patient. Based on the susceptibility, we have to select the potency and you have to repeat the potency very beautifully, and the doses has to be followed very nicely. And it may be a time-consuming process. And as I said in the triad, Organon, Metromedica, and repertory has to be mastered to master this method. Now, another method is prescription based on causation. I'll say this is one of the Heinemann's favorite. There will be a question in your 2 marks question, which is the superior method of prescribing remedies or selecting the remedy. Either it is totality of symptoms or causative prescription. Heinemann says causative prescription is the best answer. If you can find out the cause, you can control the effect. Caesata affectus, caesata causa. We have studied in organon. Now, given this picture, whenever this I have been teaching in my classrooms also, whenever I teach caesata affectus and caesata causa, when you show this to any boy, a small boy of 5 years old, and you show this video and ask him why the building is falling down, he'll say the aeroplane is crashing on the building. So aeroplane is the cause for this crashing of the building. Yeah, it is visible. It is very much visible. So you cannot deny that. It is a recent cause. But when you ask any elderly person, okay, and ask him what is the cause of this falling of the building, obviously he say it is a terrorist attack. There is a terrorist behind this. So the cause here has changed. So remote cause is different, which has led to the recent cause. So the disease has resulted. So a classical prescription also should include the causation. You will do it in analysis of symptoms once you have taken the case. I'll just present. It's a very simple case. I just wanted to present. This is a Marwadi lady. Came to me some 1 month back, and she said she is getting repeated boils all over her body, and every time she visits a doctor, he drains the abscess and removes the pus, and he gives some antibiotics, and she goes off. You know, staphylococcal infection or streptococcal infection is the result for disease, and you know, you are a final year student. Initially, by giving your acute prescriptions, here you can apply your protocol methods. Our aim is to only to break the abscess or remove the pus or absorb the pus. So once your protocol method helps here, you'll have to find out the basic cause why this lady is having repeated abscess. Your classical investigations, your knowledge of medicine will help you what may be the reason behind. Example, maybe elevated ASO titer, or maybe a history of staphylococcal infection or beta hemolytic staphylococcal infection in the past, or any other bacterial infection. We'll have to find out any other systemic reasons. We are not denying that. Once you do that, so removing the presenting complaint or pus is the recent cause, and finding out the main causation for recurrences is the remote cause. So classical prescription can be incorporated, in my opinion, with your protocol methods. Now, what are the pros and cons of this prescription? As I discussed, the causative versus totality, our aim has to be for prescribing the causation, but not the totality. It can be explained both scientifically and philosophically. Caesata affectus, caesata causa used to be a philosophical axiom. Now in science also we are applying it, and it's easy to apply, and unprejudiced and investigative, inquisitive mind of physician has to be there. And of course, artistic application of your general medicine and Mater Medica and Organon has to go hand in hand. A synergetic approach has to be there. Already I quoted, it is one of the Heinemann's favorite. And Heinemann never asked you to confuse between acute and chronic cases. 83 to 104 aphorisms will tell you. In 82 aphorism, Heinemann says, in acute cases, handle only the acute totality. Don't confuse the chronic totality, because example he gives is Noxomica patient during acute attack may not be irritable because he is suffering now. But once the acute is over, the chronic mentality of Noxomica returns back. So don't confuse between acute and chronic cases. Prescription based on suppression. I don't want to go into the theory. You have studied the theory. Suppression is very special to homeopathy. Other systems of medicine may not accept it. Even I think as far as Ayurveda Siddha is concerned, they don't have a theory of suppression. They have a theory of palliation. Just for recapping, Heinemann in some cases allows you to palliate. In the first year portion, approach number 87 footnote, and 67 footnote, Heinemann says palliation is allowed in certain cases where life-threatening conditions are there, but suppression is not at all allowed. So how do you prescribe? So you need a knowledge of Metromedica here, which supplies a good idea of your prescription. I'll share a classical case which I did in our college OPD. A boy of 5 years was brought to my clinic, and he said he has been suffering with breathlessness, which was diagnosed by probable asthma by allopathic doctor, and he administered some inhalers, bronchodilators to the baby. And the investigation revealed that the baby had no family history of any bronchial asthma or autoimmune disorders. He was hale and healthy, very active prior to this 5 months back. So the past history has revealed that he suffered with severe diarrhea, and he was forced to admit in hospital, which has been immediately controlled by allopathic medications, which we can consider as a suppression. And after this diarrhea suppression, within 10 or 15 days, he started developing breathlessness, which was treated by allopathy doctors, of course, as a different phenomenon. And he was kept under bronchodilators. Now the logic here is the suppression started after the diarrhea. So now once you prescribe, according to your Ken Stoll observations, you have to follow your Organon methods. So if you follow this, the baby can get cured. Now here the prescription I gave was sulfur was given and Hepar sulf was alternated. Of course, along with my favorite mother tincture for bronchial asthma, Aspidosperma, was kept as a organopathic remedy or a scavenger remedy, we call it as, continuously, daily the baby has taken. And treatment was given for 1 month to 2 months, and it's almost 1 year, 2 years now. The baby is free. And this was also another suppression case. The lady had uterine hemorrhage, bleeding, heavily she was bleeding, and which was controlled or suppressed by the allopathic doctor. And later she developed eczematous eruptions all over the body. And she was under treatment for 3 to 4 years under a skin specialist. And the history has revealed the uterine bleeding was suppressed forcefully. Later she developed this. I prescribed first initially Graphitis, constitutional remedy. I didn't prescribe for suppression here because almost 4 years over and Graphitis has cured the case. Very straightforward case. As I said, suppression, you cannot show scientific evidence here. There is no laboratory investigation to show that prescription based on suppression is a reliable prescription. Only our Metromedica and Organon subject will support us. We cannot scientifically prove that. But Heinemann considered it as a superiority. Prescription based on miasms, a great, good subject. I don't want to put more work on this because it's a very deep subject. You know, prescription based on miasm, some people are prescribing only on the miasms. But to quote the pioneers, Dr. Richard Hughes openly criticizes the chronic diseases theory. He may not be fond of. Okay, he is happy with the law of similia, law of simplex, and prescribing the potentized prescriptions. And this was a miasmatic case based on soda, sulfur and Hepar sulf, two are Heinemann's favorite remedies. I prescribed this. And I don't want to bore you by presenting all the cases because the subject is only to identify the relevance of prescriptions. And this man was already having diabetes, which was under control with allopathy, and no other complaints he has because of the old age the diabetes has developed. Otherwise, he has a very good life, very calm, cooperative personality, very apprehensive. So based on this picture, I have chosen soda as a miasm based on the SORA, I prescribe this. And theoretically supporting my prescription, Heinemann calls vitiligo as a combination of SORA and syphilis. So SORA will be the mother of all miasms. Prescription based on nosodes. It's a very big chapter, good chapter. Most of us, we know nosodes as intercurrent remedies, unlocking the cases. Yes, it unlocks, but you know the history. Heinemann wanted to prescribe nosodes not only as a intercurrent remedies or miasmatic blockage remedies, removing them, but they can be used as a acute prescriptions also, provided the picture suits you. Yeah, another important remedy nowadays, very controversial. I have one professor in our college who used to scold us whoever prescribes mother tinctures. He says mother tinctures are not homeopathic prescriptions. But I don't feel so, because masters like Benedict Castro, Dr. Burnett, they have incorporated or they have supported organopathic remedies. If you go to posology chapter, Dr. Stuart Close, Genius of Homeopathy, posology chapter, Stuart Close says any potency, including mother tincture, can be used as a remedy to cure the condition, but depends upon the susceptibility of the patient. But classically speaking, only potentized remedy has to be prescribed. Above 30 potency was the Heinemann's prescription, 30 potency and above. But Dr. Burnett has mastered this method. And as I said, these are the scavenger remedies. They help in cleansing the systems or cleansing the particular organ which is affected. These are the commonest organopathic remedies we prescribe. You know them. In which conditions we can go for prescription based on organopathic remedies. I had 4 to 5 cases of renal agenesis, congenital absence of one kidney, and because of this pressure gradient, vesico-urethric reflux will happen on the opposite kidney, and the liquid or the urine stagnates in the affected kidney or the ureter, and because of this, the patient repeatedly gets hydronephrosis or repeated bacterial infections. The patient is really worried about. The allopathic doctor, either he prescribes antibiotics or he recommends for a removal of the kidney, affected kidney. But in such cases, because it is a congenital anomaly, you may not treat the case when the organ itself is missing. All you have to do is maintain the quality of life. In such cases, all you are left out is only to use the remedies to cleanse the system. So here you are using mother tinctures or organopathic remedies as a scavenger remedies. Such conditions do arise in our day-to-day practice. And another case of tuberculosis where I had to prescribe organopathic remedies. This is also an old case when I was practicing in my college OPD. A drug-resistant tuberculosis came to me because we have a TB sanatorium nearby our hospital, and he presented with a drug-resistant tuberculosis, so he wanted to switch over to homeopathy. When the case was studied, the patient was affected repeatedly with tuberculosis, and because of this complication, lobectomy was done, and multiple lobes of lungs have been removed, and the remaining lobes are now affected now, and abscess and pus is forming in. So since the lobes are removed, no organ or no vital force can be stimulated. This is perfectly coming under incurable condition, pathologically advanced condition, where classical prescription. In such cases also, we can rely on organopathic prescriptions. Some list of organopathic remedies. You can take screenshots or you have a material in your books readily available. My verdict as a doctor is, I believe today the scenario is changing. If homeopathy is a science and art, science has to advance. Science is not stagnant. Of course, we should never deviate from our simillimum. We should never deviate from our basic law. But instead of sticking to our triad, I add tetrad, that is one more knowledge of general medicine. You cannot prescribe any protocol or you cannot prescribe any prescription, including Hahnemann method. Hahnemann method, why I'm telling this? To evaluate the symptoms. Evaluation is grading the symptoms according to their hierarchical importance. You have to evaluate the symptoms based on the nosological diagnosis. When you do nosological diagnosis, you have to remove the common symptoms of the disease. Only remaining uncommon peculiar symptoms have to be evaluated. How do you do this removal of common symptoms of disease without the general knowledge or general medicine knowledge? So general medicine is very important even for classical homeopathic prescription. Second point, if you want to create a protocol, you must know what is nosological disease, what is it, what is the prognosis, how do you control it. So this comes only with the knowledge of general medicine. And if you want to create clinical tips also, you need all these knowledge and years of experience, because you need to create a protocol, prove it, reprove it, and clinically verify it. Until unless you do that, your protocol cannot be called as a reliable protocol. Now, again, we'll do the introspection, applying the triad. You cannot differentiate whether this eruption is because of apathy, B complex deficiency, or oral candidiasis, or cancer of the tongue or mouth, until unless you have a knowledge of organon, metamedica, repertory, and general medicine. Same thing, until unless you have a knowledge, you cannot find out whether it is a physiological fracture or a pathological fracture. Same thing applies to all the other points. Yeah, this is my verdict. Whatever mode you choose, all roads leads to Rome. Your aim is to cure the patient by any means, whichever means is good for you. So first aporism stands always high. Thank you.